Hi, everyone. I'm Emma, 25 years old, a barista scraping by in Portland, Oregon. My life was never glamorous. Long shifts, burnt coffee, and a family who always made me feel like I didn't belong. But last Christmas Eve, during what was supposed to be a cozy family dinner, one innocent question from my mom unraveled a secret that changed everything. A single gift, a diamond necklace meant for me, exposed a betrayal so deep, it shattered my trust forever. What would you do if you discovered your own family stole something precious from you? Something that could have changed your life? Let me take you back to that night, to a moment that started with a smile and ended with me walking away from the only family I'd ever known. Before we dive in, drop a comment below. What time is it where you're watching and what city are you in? I want to know how far this story travels. A bustling Portland restaurant. Fairy lights twinkling, clinking glasses. The upscale restaurant in Portland's Pearl District buzzed with holiday cheer. My family's annual Christmas Eve dinner was always a big deal. Polished silverware, linen napkins, the kind of place where you feel underdressed, even in your best sweater. I sat at the round table, my hands fidgeting with the edge of my napkin, forcing a smile. Across from me were my mom, Linda, always distracted, her phone buzzing with work emails. My dad, Greg, his eyes cold and distant. My older sister, Chloe, 27, scrolling her phone with a smug grin, and my Aunt Marie, the only one who ever seemed to notice me. The air felt heavy, like it always did with my family. Growing up, I was the invisible one. Chloe was the golden child, charming, confident, always handed everything on a silver platter. Me? I was the afterthought, the one who paid her own way, who worked double shifts at a coffee shop to afford a tiny studio apartment. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened that night. Halfway through dinner, as Mom sipped her wine, she turned to me with a warm, clueless smile. "Emma, sweetie, how's the diamond necklace I gave you last Christmas? Do you wear it often?" My fork slipped, hitting the plate with a metallic clink. My heart slammed against my ribs, a cold sweat prickling my neck. "What? Necklace?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. Mom's smile faltered, her brows knitting in confusion. "The necklace, Emma. The diamond pendant I gave you last year. You loved it, didn't you?" The table went silent. Chloe's phone dropped to her lap, her face paling like she'd seen a ghost. Dad's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening around his steak knife. Aunt Marie leaned back, her sharp eyes darting between them. My pulse raced, a sick feeling twisting my gut. I'd never seen that necklace, never heard of it, not once. Mom's question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Something was wrong. Deeply, horribly wrong. And the way Chloe avoided my gaze, the way Dad's eyes flicked to the floor, told me they knew exactly why. Growing up in Portland, I was always the odd one out. My family lived in a nice house in the suburbs, but I never felt at home. Chloe was the star, captain of the cheer team, always invited to parties, her room stuffed with designer clothes and gadgets. She'd breeze through our house, tossing her hair, bragging about her latest shopping spree. Meanwhile, I worked weekends at a coffee shop, my hands stained with espresso, my shoes worn thin from standing all day. At 25, I was proud of paying my own rent, even if it meant skipping meals to make ends meet. But it stung to watch Chloe live like royalty while I scraped by. Dad always had her back, no matter what. Once, Chloe crashed her car after texting and driving. Dad paid for the repairs, no questions asked, saying, "She's young, she'll learn." But when I asked for a $200 loan to fix my laptop for online classes, he snapped, "Figure it out, Emma. You're an adult." Mom was no better. She worked as a real estate agent, always on the phone, closing deals, rarely home. When she was around, she'd gush over Chloe's Instagram posts, her trips to LA, her new Louis Vuitton bag, while barely asking about my life. I stopped expecting her attention years ago, but Aunt Marie was different. She lived in Austin, Texas, running a small graphic design studio. Her calls were my lifeline, long talks about my dreams, my love for art, my goal to someday design book covers. She'd send me sketch pads, watercolor sets, little gifts that showed she saw me. Chloe's lifestyle never made sense. At 27, she had no job, Yet she lived like a trust fund kid. I'd see her Instagram stories, her sipping cocktails at rooftop bars, posing on beaches in Bali, her wrist dripping with jewelry that cost more than my yearly rent. One post showed her twirling in a $3,000 dress, captioned, "Just another Tuesday." My stomach twisted every time I saw it. Where was she getting the money? Dad worked at a car dealership. Decent, but not that decent. Mom's real estate gigs paid well, but not enough to fund Chloe's endless vacations. I started noticing other things. New furniture in their house, a shiny home theater system, Dad's sudden obsession with golf clubs that cost thousands. Once I found a receipt in the kitchen for a $15,000 hot tub, paid in cash. My hands shook as I held it, my mind racing. How could they afford this? And why was I always left out? Aunt Marie was my anchor. Every few weeks, she'd call from Austin, her voice warm and steady. "How's my favorite artist doing?" she'd ask, and I'd spill everything, my exhausting shifts, my sketches, my dream of leaving Portland. She'd sent me money for art classes since high school, wiring funds to Dad with strict instructions. "This is for Emma's education." But I never saw a cent. Dad would mumble about family expenses, and I'd nod, too scared to push back. Once, I overheard him on the phone, laughing about a new boat he'd bought. My heart sank. Was that where Marie's money went? I wanted to ask her, to beg for the truth, but confronting Dad felt like stepping into a lion's cage. So I stayed quiet, the doubt festering like a wound. Lashback. Chloe's lavish birthday party. Emma watching from the sidelines. Last summer, my family's spending hit a new level. Chloe threw a birthday bash that looked like a Hollywood premiere. Catered sushi, a live DJ, guests in designer outfits. I wasn't invited. I found out when I pulled into the driveway after a 12-hour shift, my apron still smelling of coffee, and saw cars lining the street. Mom waved it off, saying, "It's Chloe's moment, Emma. You understand." I didn't understand. My chest burned as I hauled my tired body to my apartment, the sound of laughter fading behind me. Then came the home renovations. Marble floors, a gourmet kitchen, a chandelier that sparkled like a crown. I was tasked with boxing up old decor, my arms aching as Chloe lounged by the pool sipping a mojito. Dad barked orders, treating me like hired help. Each box I carried fueled a quiet rage, a question I couldn't shake. Where was this money coming from? Emma in a cluttered garage, unfolding a crumpled receipt. One evening, while sorting through junk in their garage, I found a crumpled receipt tucked inside a box of old dishes. My fingers trembled as I smoothed it out. $20,000 for a custom wine cellar, paid in cash. My breath caught. Dad's dealership job didn't pay for that. Mom's commissions couldn't cover it. I thought of Aunt Marie's money, the checks meant for my art classes, the ones Dad claimed went to bills. The receipt felt like a smoking gun, but when I showed it to Dad, his face darkened. "It's from savings," he snapped, yanking the paper from my hand. "Stop snooping, Emma." His eyes betrayed him. A flicker of panic. He was lying, and I knew it. That night, I lay awake, my mind spiraling. The hot tub, Chloe's trips, the renovations. It all pointed to a truth I wasn't ready to face. Back at that Christmas Eve dinner, the restaurant's warmth felt suffocating. Mom's question about the necklace echoed in my skull. I stared at her, my voice shaking. "Mom, I never got a necklace. I don't know what you're talking about." Her face crumpled, confusion giving way to horror. Chloe's hands fidgeted, her nails digging into her palms. Dad's fork scraped his plate, a grating sound that set my teeth on edge. Aunt Marie's voice cut through, calm but razor sharp. "Linda, she never got it. Greg and Chloe sold it. $25,000, gone." The room spun. My breath hitched, a sharp pain stabbing my chest. "A diamond necklace? For me? Sold?" Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Greg, is this true?" Dad's face reddened, his voice low. "It was for the family, Linda. The house, the renovations. Emma didn't need it." Chloe chimed in, her voice shrill. "It's not a big deal, okay? Just business." Business. My blood boiled, my fists clenching under the table. They'd sold a gift meant for me, pocketed the cash, and lied for a year. Mom's eyes welled with tears, her voice breaking. Emma, I swear, I thought you had it. I picked it out for you. I couldn't look at her. My gaze locked on Chloe, her smug face now pale with guilt, and Dad, his jaw set like he'd done nothing wrong. Aunt Marie reached for my hand, her voice steady. That's not all. The $15,000 I sent for Emma's art classes, Greg kept it, said it was for family needs. My voice shook, but I didn't care. You sold my necklace, you stole my money, and you lied to my face for years. I turned to Dad, my eyes burning. I trusted you. I worked my ass off while you handed Chloe everything, and this is what I get? Dad's eyes narrowed, his voice cold. You're being dramatic, Emma. We needed the money. Chloe scoffed, her old arrogance creeping back. Chill, Emma. It's not personal. Not personal. My hands trembled, rage and hurt colliding. Mom's voice cut through, sharp and final. Chloe, you're done. You're out of my will. Chloe's mouth fell open, her face ashen. Dad started to protest, but Mom silenced him. Enough, Greg. You've gone too far. For the first time, I saw Mom take a stand, but it wasn't enough to erase the betrayal searing my heart. Aunt Marie squeezed my hand, her voice soft. Emma, come to Austin. Start over with me. You don't need this. Her words were a lifeline, a beacon in the storm. I looked at my family. Mom's tear-streaked face, Dad's clenched fists, Chloe's panicked eyes, and felt nothing but disgust. I stood, my chair scraping the floor. I'm done, I said, my voice cold. Don't call me. Don't look for me. I walked out, the restaurant's warmth fading behind me, my heart set on a future they couldn't touch. The next morning, I stood at Portland International Airport, my hands trembling as I clutched my suitcase. The plane ride to Austin was a blur, my mind replaying the dinner. Mom's tears, Chloe's guilt, Dad's lies. I stared out the window, the clouds below a reminder of the distance I was leaving behind. When I landed, Aunt Marie was waiting at the gate, her smile warm and real. She pulled me into a hug, whispering, You're home now, Emma. For the first time in years, I believed it. Austin was alive. Bright murals, buzzing coffee shops, music spilling from every corner. Marie had lined up a job for me at her graphic design studio, a small team creating branding for local businesses. It's entry level, she warned, but it's yours. I nodded, grateful for any chance to start over. My first day, I walked into a colorful office, open desks, plants everywhere, laughter bouncing off the walls. I felt like an imposter, my sketch pad clutched tight, but Marie introduced me with pride. That's when I met Lucas, a quiet designer with a crooked smile and a knack for making everyone laugh. He noticed my nerves, the way I doodled during breaks to calm myself. One day he slid me a coffee, grinning. Rough day, huh? Want to tell me about that sketch? His easy kindness chipped away at my walls. Over weeks, we'd talk about art, music, anything but Portland. He'd share his playlists, tease me about my coffee obsession, and slowly, I started to breathe again. Emma in a design class, her face lit with focus, sketching on a tablet. Marie enrolled me in design classes at night, insisting I had talent. The first class was overwhelming. Digital tools I'd never touched, terms I didn't know. But my instructor praised my eye for color, and my classmates cheered when I finished my first logo. Each project felt like a step away from the girl who'd been invisible, towards someone new. I'd stay late, lost in Photoshop, the thrill of creation drowning out the pain of Portland. One night, an email from Dad popped up. Emma, I'm sorry, it began, followed by excuses about family pressures. His words felt empty, a flimsy bandage on a wound he'd carved. I deleted it without replying, my jaw tight. He couldn't undo the necklace he'd sold, the money he'd stolen, the years he'd dismissed me. Emma in a cozy Austin apartment, fairy lights glowing, sketching at a desk. With Marie's help, I found a tiny apartment near Zilker Park, its walls covered in my sketches, its shelves lined with thrift store books. Signing the lease felt like claiming my life. Nights were quiet, sometimes heavy with memories of Portland, But Lucas's texts or Marie's calls reminded me I wasn't alone. Lucas and I grew closer, our coffee chats turning into late-night walks along Lady Bird Lake. He'd listen when I opened up about my family, his hand warm in mine. We fell in love, our bond built on shared dreams and quiet moments. A year later, an email from Chloe landed in my inbox. I was in my Austin apartment sipping tea when her name flashed on my screen. Her words were bitter, a far cry from the sister who'd once flaunted her wealth. Dad had been fired from his dealership after an audit caught him funneling company funds. Their house was sold to cover debts, and they'd moved to a dingy apartment. Chloe's fall was worse. Cut from Mom's will, she'd taken a job as a retail cashier. Her days spent folding clothes for minimum wage. No more Bali trips, no more designer bags, just sore feet and a life stripped of glamour. Her email begged for money, citing family ties. I laughed, a cold sound. She'd sold my necklace, helped Dad steal my future, and now she wanted my help? I typed a reply, my fingers steady. You sold my necklace, Chloe. You and Dad took everything. Don't call me family. I hit send, my heart racing, knowing I'd cut the final thread. Mom tried calling, leaving voicemails about healing. But her absence during my childhood, her blind favoritism toward Chloe, left scars I couldn't forgive. I deleted her messages, my resolve firm. 2 years later, I stood on my apartment's rooftop, Austin's lights twinkling below. At Marie's studio, I'd risen to lead designer, creating campaigns that won awards. My days were filled with color, creativity, and a team that felt like family. Lucas and I married in a small park ceremony, surrounded by friends who'd become my true home. Our apartment was alive with art, music, and plans for a future we'd build together. Word reached me about Portland. Dad, drowning in debt, worked as a gas station clerk. Chloe had vanished, rumors saying she drifted through dead-end jobs. I felt a pang, but no guilt. Their choices, selling my necklace, stealing my money, had led them here. Justice wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, inevitable, and final. Thank you for following my story. It wasn't easy, but it taught me to choose myself. If you've faced a toxic family or fought for your own justice, share your story below. What does family mean to you? How do you find the strength to move on?